What's going on, everyone? Adam here, and this is What's Good in Riverside, the show where we promote people from Riverside, and I am so lucky to have a huge guest today, a guy I grew up watching, and I know a lot of people you do, back in the day, and the good old 0-2 Angels winning the World Series, and if you don't know who this guy is, you obviously weren't around back then, but the ALCS MVP, Adam Kennedy, thanks so much for coming in today, buddy.
Of course, Adam, thanks for having me, man. It's always good to come back to Riverside, hang out downtown, come check out your cool office.
Yeah.
So thanks.
I will say you are the only check mark that follows me, so I really appreciate that. So when I saw you first start following me, I'm like, oh my God, dude. I'm like, Kennedy's following me. No way.
No, you got good content. You're a smart guy.
Thanks, man.
I enjoy listening to you.
Thanks, man. So obviously, if a lot of people don't know, you graduated from North, right? Where was the moment for you when it was like, oh shoot, like I can play? Like I know your dad was a coach, so obviously he was and then your brother could kind of play. When was the moment where you're like, I think I could play professional? Or when the scouts started telling you that kind of stuff?
Really not in high school at all. I was really busy playing basketball. Basketball at North High School. That's the thing
the jam
back then.
right
yeah,
there. Yeah.
So that was where my heart really was at the time. I love baseball. Don't get me wrong, but it was fun playing basketball in front of the crowd. Ran Cross Square tournament. Mm-hmm. That was the most fun of high school is the basketball. The baseball stuff kind of just came, later in my senior year. Well, let me back up. I was always pretty good, right? So
obviously,
I always knew I had a little talent, but I never really looked too far ahead in anything. So even back then, you just kind of go step by step and year by year, and didn't get any college offers until even after graduation. So. Went to Cal State Northridge and just kind of, like I said, step by step, not looking too far ahead.
Isn't it crazy? Like, obviously you're around a lot, and a lot of people probably are reaching out to you when they have kids. And, me being in baseball, it's like you see all these kids doing these tournaments every single weekend. And then you have someone like you where it was like, I didn't even get a college. No. And then now I played in the big leagues. Like, I feel like that's something that's kind of crazy now where it's like they put so much pressure on these kids in the beginning. It's like, dude, if they have it, they're going to have it or the talent or whatever it is. Do you feel like more it's like talent based, obviously hard work, but some people are just meant for the big leagues and some are just not.
100%. It's a good combination, I do feel that, baseball doesn't bring out all the athleticism in you. It doesn't bring out all the competition in you. So the other sports, football, toughness, and the one-on-one competition, basketball, the one-on-one competition, those things you can control. I love the sports for that, golf even, just a one-on-one competition, all these things. I think it's important for the kids to do a few different things, as many as they can, as many as the family can afford or time allows for. But, I get a little bit upset when the kids start focusing on baseball too early. I don't think it allows them to really show their full potential.
Yeah, well, before the podcast, we were talking about, your son is 7. He's starting to get into baseball. So are you going to try to, even though if he goes all in on baseball, you're going to try to push him to other things?
100%.
Yeah.
I have 2 older boys too, so kind of the same with them. But with the younger one, right now, football's his favorite.
Oh, nice.
So try to keep that going. Basketball, and then baseball's kind of his third favorite at the moment. So that's fine as long as he's out there getting some exercise and competing a little bit.
For sure, man. So that's awesome. So now you're at Northridge, and you're kind of like, obviously you said you guys had a good squad, and then all of a sudden, are you starting to feel like, uh-oh, like this could actually happen? Like I might get drafted. What was the feeling when you're in college? Were you still trying to focus at Northridge school, or you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to go all in on baseball at this point?
Yeah, I was pretty much all in on baseball keep in mind, like I talked about, not looking too far ahead, So every year was kind of a stepping stone. So I had a good freshman year. I go to summer ball, and I'm MVP of the Alaska League. So
you played in the Alaska League?
Yeah, great league. Great.
I wanted to go up there so bad.
Great time. Stays light 24 hours a day, so you play some midnight games. If you have a good host family, it's kind of the make it or break it for you. And I had a great host family, so it was a great time. I was MVP of that league, so kind of just step by step. So once I got MVP of Alaska League, then your name is on the map.
Obviously, yeah.
And you start to kind of take the next step as far as USA baseball, Cape Cod League, and so forth.
And then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, look what's happening. And next thing you know, a few years later, you're getting drafted. So obviously you got drafted by the Cardinals. How was it going through the Cardinals organization? Like, I always loved the Cardinals. I always felt like they're just a good organization. I don't know. I felt like they did things where how was that being a player for that organization?
Yeah, definitely. So, when I was drafted, it was very the old school mentality. Cardinal baseball, just grinding it out, good old players.
Yeah.
Walt Jocketty was the GM, a great organization for me. I kind of fit that mold right away. As I got older, kind of the new regime started to take over. That's Jeff Lunau, who the Houston Astro mess, that he kind of created all of that, and he's a more analytic guy. So I kind of got out of town just in time, traded to Anaheim in 2000, just when St. Louis was kind of trading over to the new age, and coming to Anaheim was just a perfect fit for me.
Do you obviously baseball I feel like has changed so much over the years. Now it's all a lot of numbers, a lot of analytics. Do you feel like that's kind of like maybe organizations are missing out on guys because they're just looking at numbers, and you don't really, there's no numbers for grit or hard work, or I feel like when I was coming to the minor leagues, like, he can only throw 37 pitches, that's it, he's done, and you're like, dude, the dude's dealing right now, like, let him just like go out and throw right now,
Yeah, no, it definitely is changing a little bit. I do think it'll come back a little bit. I think we're at the peak of the analytical part of it, but I think there's a place for both analytics and the old school grit type of baseball player, because analytics are part of it. It's a numbers game when it boils down to averages and ERAs and stuff. So I get that part of it, but yeah, it's tough to if I was coming up, I don't know where I would have stood in an analytic world as far as a first round pick. But being a good baseball player, having some intangibles, those things stood out and was able to get me that pick.
So what was your favorite city in the minor leagues that you went through?
We talked a little bit earlier. Probably Memphis.
Dude,
great,
I'm telling you,
great
Memphis
town.
is the town. If you've never been to Memphis, there's just like, I don't know what it is about that town that's just like, I love going there. And it sucks you didn't get to play in the new ballpark. The new ballpark was just like, it's funny, a lot of people don't know that Memphis is supposed to be a big league city. But I don't think that stadium was big enough for a big league stadium.
Just the kind of compares to New Orleans, just that energy, that downtown energy, a lot of music, music, barbecue spots, and all the stereotypical things you think of it. It's there, and it's a good time.
How was it going through the minor leagues with like no cell phones, no internet, no really like? How was that kind of? Was it a little different than it is like, after then you got in the big leagues and you had cell phones and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it's probably better because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have that stress or anxiety. I remember when I left, I was kind of hanging out with this girl, and I remember like putting coins in the phone, and I'm like just laughing, but you don't know any better. So it's great, really. Just doesn't come with the stress and anxiety that we have now created on all the cell phone and the computer stuff that we deal with.
Yeah, I remember one of the things, the story guys used to always say, one guy in AAA would always have to carry around a recorder, and they'd have to have it in their hotel room, and then they would go back every night in the hotel room to see if anyone got called up to the big leagues. That's how umpires found out they got to the big leagues. They would come in, there'd be a red light flashing, and the low guy in the crew had to carry this big old box around everywhere they went, and that's how they found out if they went to the big leagues or not.
That's great.
Yeah, right. And I would say too is like, I remember it's like the moment like the game was over when internet started coming around. It's like, hey, where you at? And I'm like, dude, I just walked off the field like 30 seconds ago. Can I get a breather? Like, so you obviously then switched to the Angels in 2000. Did you go straight to the big leagues that year, or were you in the minor leagues first and then moved up? Because I know, what was your first year with the Angels in the big leagues?
2000. So 99, I was called up with St. Louis. In spring training, I had got sent back down, and that's when I got traded over with about a week left in spring training. Angels had a hole at second base, and that was the trade. So didn't spend much time in the minor leagues after that.
Yeah, I feel like the 02 Angels, it was, being a freshman in high school when that was all happening, especially being from Riverside, like that team was just like gritty. They like had you, and then had Eckstein, and then Percy, and like it was like, I just feel like there's not a lot of teams like that anymore. It's like, yeah, you had some big players, but you didn't really have that like massive superstar. You had Salmon, you had some guys, but it wasn't like how teams are now, where I feel like everyone has that like $200 million player now that's like the guy. You guys were just like gritty, bunting, stealing, that kind of, how was the magic in 02 with you guys?
Yeah, no, that team had kind of been constructed over, a 3-year period. A lot of the same core guys, Garrett Anderson, Troy Gloss, Erstad, Percival. So the that was there. And then just kind of we pieced it together, and it was a great time. We changed uniforms. Orange County, Riverside, people started, noticing we were playing well. And by the summer of 2002, it was a good time to be at the stadium.
Well, that's when they came out with the sticks, right?
Came out with the
Thunder
sticks,
sticks.
The rally monkey.
Yeah.
So all these things that were just kind of bringing energy to Angels baseball, right? And then, and we were good. We were young. We were young enough, a little veteran leadership, but some young guys, and we just we enjoyed playing baseball. We enjoyed hanging out with each other. We enjoyed stuff after the game. Enjoyable year for sure.
Were you? Are you happy you never had to wear the Angels uniforms with the big wings?
I did wear them.
Oh, was that the year of the
2000, 2001?
Oh yeah, that's when the Disney owned it.
So
right?
2002 was.
Ooh, do you still have that uniform?
Year. I'm sure I do.
That was next level.
Awful,
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know who design company went in there and was like, hey, this is what I'd rather had Mickey Mouse on the shirt.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And thankfully I was so young and just happy to be in the big leagues where I'm like just giving you whatever uniform
you want.
Yeah.
So at that time, were you living in Southern California? Okay.
Yeah. Right when I got traded to Anaheim, I just I lived down by the stadium for the first couple of years and kind of been in Orange County, ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you guys are going for the push. You guys get in the playoffs, and then let's talk about the ALCS. Like, you just go off. You just, like, what was it about? Was it kind of unreal in that moment when you were going, like, I remember watching on TV and just, like, home run. I'm like, if they didn't know who you were before, all of a sudden you're on the map. How was that series for you?
Great. The whole playoff run kind of, everybody was kind of playing good, no one person kind of carrying us. It's kind of a different guy each night. And that just happened to be my day. I wasn't swinging the bat that series that great. I remember being kind of frustrated going into that game. I remember we didn't have batting practice on the field that day, but we were in the cage and just kind of couldn't get my shit together, and you're like, really frustrated. And, something clicked right when game time started, took one good swing, and, in sports and really anything, confidence will take you a long way. So one good swing, kind of flipped my script and just had a great day from there on.
Did you have a big routine before games? Like, were you like very like same time at the ballpark, same meal, same everything?
Yeah, I mean, typically, you change it up a little bit based on how you're performing.
Yeah, you're like, I got to switch it up.
Yeah, you go to the same lunch spot if you're doing well, change it up if you're not. But
isn't it funny that we think that stuff matters,
right? Just such a routine-oriented game where you try to get to the same place mentally each day. So I think that comes along with doing the same stuff. And but yeah, when you're struggling, try to change that routine up as much as possible.
Do you feel like a big gap from guys? Obviously, you came through the minor leagues and you've been around a lot of players and training. Do you think like the mental game is really big? Like when guys, you probably saw a lot of guys come up and down while you're in the big leagues. Do you feel like the mindset of some guys that like would crush it in AAA and then they get to the big league lights and they just couldn't hack it? Do you think how big important mental game is when you're playing in the big leagues every day?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it affects you because when you're in the minor leagues, an 0 for 4, an 0 for 8, as much as you don't like to have it, it's not plastered all over the news, over ESPN, in the box score in the newspaper. Your friends back home don't know you went 0 for 8.
Yeah.
When you're in the big leagues, especially, everything's about win, win, win. So, every at bat is important. If you're struggling, everybody's going to know about it. If you're struggling, the other team's going to know, and they're going to expose you. So there's a lot more scouting involved. So yeah, it's another level of mental toughness and really trying to fight. Not fighting with yourself and keeping the frustrations to a minimum. And like I said, trying to get to that same place mentally every day so you can perform at a high level.
Did you just have like a great little small crew around you? So when you were going through these things that you could feed off? I mean, obviously your dad coached you up in high school and stuff. Was he still a big impact on you when you were going up and down in the big leagues and playing in the big leagues full time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's still here in Riverside, so he never missed a game in 6 years in Anaheim. He'd come to the stadium every night and watch. So I always had his support, and he taught me the game of baseball, so he was always there for me. But yeah, the guys in the clubhouse, guys have a different way of handling your success and your failures. Percy was a great guy to have in the clubhouse. You know, when you were struggling, you know, he'd find a way to you know, talk to you about it, and sometimes not the nicest way, but he was great to have around for times like that for me.
So how was the World Series against the Giants? Was it just insane with the rally? I just felt like that year that with the rally monkey and the sticks. I mean, I remember being in the ballpark just being so loud. How was it for you guys in that energy? And is it something that you've just never felt before? Yeah,
you know, it gets so loud out there, but you're really. I just remember. I don't really remember it being that loud based on just the fact you're kind of in the zone and you're kind of in the game, right? You're so focused within the dugout and on what's going on in the field, where all the thunder sticks and everything. I just don't remember them being that big of an issue for us playing. You know, we enjoyed it, but like it wasn't a distraction. Mm-hmm. Probably you know, more so for the other team, but for us to have the fans behind us and just knowing that whole second half of that year and through the playoff run, and even going to San Francisco, we had a great following up there. So pretty good time. All the games were on TV recently. I think on Fox Sports replayed the whole playoff series. So you get to revisit that a little bit. Then it's kind of fun.
So after, you know, obviously, I mean, I felt it in 2003 for sure. But so after you guys won in 2002, like, how much did it change for you? Did all of a sudden you start getting like tons of more phone calls and people reaching out to you? Hey, Adam, remember me? And all the ceremonies and all that stuff. How did your life change after winning the World Series in 2002?
You know, in a good way. You know, you try to keep your you know, group of friends, you know, small, and I was always pretty good at that. I think my parents, you know, probably had a tougher job of kind of weeding out the people, and you know, we've been in the same house for a long time, so a lot of people, you know, showing up at their doorstep, you know, calling their phones. I think they had to deal with it a lot more than I did.
Mm-hmm. So because you're out in Orange County living in a little bubble, you know what I mean? And what we said before the podcast, now you walk around, people see who you are. You know, are you still getting a lot of autographs nowadays?
Yeah, I don't mind anytime. You know, I get noticed kind of on a regular basis. Nice. You know, on a daily basis. So I enjoy it. You know, part of being you know, bringing that energy to the city and to Southern California is a part of it.
What was it playing for Sosha and then having you know, that kind of coaching staff around you guys? I kind of even see now where why am I going blank on his name? Your bench coach that was.
Yeah, we have Renicky, Bud Black, you know, Joe Madden.
What I mean, when you really think about it, what a coaching staff. I mean, look what they've all Bud Black. I mean, all those guys have just been there, and now it seems like you guys just had an amazing coaching staff. They ended up turning out to some great major league umpire or major league coaches. Managers.
Yeah, no, Sosha was great. You know, he was great to us as players. Me and him would have our battles, but he was very supportive of me as a player and in my growing process. And then him putting together that staff, I mean, a big, you know, I mean, that's huge. Who would have known all these people would go on to have that success? And he brought them all together. And each one of the coaching staff members kind of took on a different role for us on a daily basis, right? Because the manager, not that you don't speak to him a lot, but he's the manager, right? And he's kind of your boss, and you're a little bit intimidated by him. So you may need those other coaches to kind of run things by and to kind of see where you stand. And if you have frustrations, you kind of take it out with them. And they know when to get it to the manager and when to not. So it was just a great coaching staff, a great group of guys. And Bill Stoneman, the GM at the time, he kind of was the mastermind of bringing all that together.
So are you still involved kind of with the Angels, or, you know, now there's kind of been a turnover of, you know, with Sosha being gone, the GM being gone, do you still do a lot of stuff with them or any more like that?
Yeah, I usually go, you know, I go to the stadium probably, you know, a couple times a month, you know, catch a game. And, you know, Artie will have us in the suite for some special nights, you know, opening day or throughout the season. But I'm just kind of a fan at this point, really. You know, I'll do some charity events for them, but really just kind of a fan like everybody else.
Yeah. So then obviously you were with the Angels for a few more years, and then, you know, kind of at the end you kind of bounced around the Dodgers and some other places. You know, how was it, you know, at the end of the career? You know, obviously. For anyone, when you think about it, it's like, okay, would you rather stayed an Angel the whole time, or it was like, all right, it's time to kind of, you know, looking for a different opportunity?
Yeah, no, you always like to be able to, you know, be in one place for a long time if the situation right. And It was great, but the Angels had Howie Kendrick coming up,
Yeah.
and he's had a great career, so kind of hard to argue with kind of how they went about that, but there was no hard feelings there. We had a great run, 6 years there, or 6 or 7 years there was great, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
For
and
sure.
then, but it's also great to go and see other places, and Oakland was probably my other favorite place to play.
Really?
Who'd have
Wow.
thought? Like,
Yeah.
Oakland has, as bad as the stadium is, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing there. It's like a Friday night football type atmosphere. The travel for Oakland, best airplanes, best hotels.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
So,
That's
I would have never
super
known
surprising.
that. No, without a doubt. So,
Because their spring training facility used to be trash, and now they took over the old Cubs. But
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
be that's really playing in. Wow.
Yeah.
That's something I just learned. I never would have thought the
they have
Oakland
a
would have been that. Like
great
that.
traveling secretary, and he kind of made all these things happen. They use Mark Cuban's airplanes.
Okay.
So one of them was for the Maverick players. So bigger bigger plane. The other one was a nice jet. So you spoiled pretty well.
Yeah. How's it like that lifestyle of the big leagues? Like traveling private all the time. Is it struggle now to have to go to the airport and all that kind of stuff?
Without a doubt, going through whether you customs or just going through the detectors is definitely a pain in the ass. There was none of that. Roll up to the bus and the tarmac and kind of get on the plane and have your fill of good food and desserts and kind of card games on the plane, all that good stuff.
What card game do you like playing?
I'm a blackjack,
Okay.
poker,
Okay.
whatever. I'll whatever everybody's playing, I'll get on it.
Little spades, little cribbage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, what was your favorite part about being in the big leagues? I mean, obviously you're in the big leagues, but what was something that maybe some people don't even realize when it comes to being in the big leagues? What was that? What is that one thing where you're like, you know what, I miss that?
Yeah, just the lifestyle of competing on that level, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're at the top of your profession, and whatever profession you're in, just trying to get to that point, and that was it, and that was, I was proud of that, and getting there and getting to stay and make a career out of it. But I think just getting to the top of your field and something that we all watched on TV as a young kid, and then getting to be a part of it and just that lifestyle is a good time.
Oh, for sure. And so, all right, so we talked about your favorite minor league city. What's your favorite major league city? You can't, and if you say Anaheim, that's ridiculous because it's definitely not Anaheim.
No, probably Boston, New York.
Yeah.
Seattle's great.
Seattle's a good city
It's
too.
really good in the summertime. When I played in Seattle, I lived downtown, and I had a really good time there as well. So, getting to travel and see all these places that you don't really wouldn't necessarily take a trip to, and getting to hang out there, that was definitely cool.
Yeah, Boston's. I think I went to Boston last year. I think Boston's my favorite ballpark, just because it's like so tight. Everyone's in the stands. Tuesday night, it's sold out. Like no one cares. You know what I mean? I feel like every night there, and then after the ballpark, everything around it.
No, definitely. So old Yankee Stadium, Fenway, Dodger Stadium, and Anaheim. Those are my 4 favorite stadiums for sure.
You were pretty West Coast heavy, but you went back to the Cardinals, right?
I did.
Yeah. And how was that? How was it to go back for a little bit?
It was okay. I didn't play great my first year, so I kind of just got out of favor with La Russa, and my second year was a lot better. But that was kind of it there. St. Louis was okay. I like a little bit more of a grudgier crowd. They're really friendly and all that. I like the New York, Boston crowd. They kind of get on you a little bit more.
A little Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good time there.
So obviously, at the end of your career, you see a lot of guys like, when I was in the Dominican, Manny was down there playing, and then he went and played in Taiwan. You see, when you got to the end, for you, like. Were you like, okay, I'm good? Like, and I know a lot of guys go outside, go other countries and stuff. Were you ever thought about doing something like that?
Now that it's all said and done, I think I would have done that maybe, about year 9 or 10 in the big leagues. Instead of kind of the last 3 or 4 years, kind of just being a utility guy, being a bench guy. When I was healthy, to still. Maybe do that. Maybe go to Japan, see what the lifestyle's like over there, because I've always been a little curious of that. But by the end, I just physically could not, run as good as I used to be able to. Just every day trying to get up for the games physically, it was getting a little tough.
Yeah. So did you never go play down in the Dominican or Venezuela?
No, winter ball. I never did that. I don't think feel like I missed out on that, but
it was awful. It's awful.
But definitely, I feel like Japan would have been cool to go play.
Japan would have been really
sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you didn't miss Sunday winter ball. It's miserable. It's like literally the longest 4 months of your life. But you guys can come and go as you please. But it is awful down there. I can't stand. I hated every minute of it. People were like, "Wasn't it a great time?" I'm like, no, it was awful. It was awful. You're sick all the time. No one speaks any English. I don't know Spanish. It was some white guy walking around.
That's funny.
And they knew, they're like, "Oh, white guy, he's here for baseball. Let's ask him for money." I'm like,
Right.
Thanks. So now obviously you're retired. So what have you been doing since MLB and what kind of what's keeping you busy nowadays?
My first year out, I started a baseball facility in Anaheim, and so was doing that for 4 years. We sold that, and in the meantime, I like 2010, I got involved in real estate investing, doing a lot of flips out here in Riverside and Vegas. So that's when I kind of got in the real estate game and really interested in that. And then like the last 5 years, I've kind of been doing that and went and got my real estate license. So I've been doing that in Orange County and just trying to be like you.
Oh, stop it, dude. Stop it. So how was it? So for you, is it kind of weird sometimes when you're like trying to you transition into real estate? You ever like walk into a house or, are you even working open houses or anything like that? Do you do that or no?
Yeah, I'll do them from time to time, but those aren't my favorite,
Next thing you know, people are taking photos. They're like, "Why is there a huge line out there?"
Yeah.
And they're like,
But no, I enjoy that client interaction. It's a good way to break the ice and to kind of create a relationship with them in a good way, as opposed to trying to shove something down their throat sales wise.
Yeah. See, I think that's something that why I kind of like your style too. It's like kind of like we're here. This is what we do. If you want to do it, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to try to hard sell you all day long.
Yeah,
I don't got time for that.
It's not my specialty, and I just feel more comfortable kind of trying to create a relationship with somebody, knowing that we all have the same end goal in mind, right? Is get you in or out of your home, which is definitely important to you, and the best and timely fashion.
For sure. So, you ever thought about leaving California or no?
No chance.
No, you love it so
much. Not interested at all.
People ask me the same question, and I'm like, dude, I've been everywhere. And I don't care all the negatives.
Yeah,
it's better than anywhere else.
I'm with you 100%. The only place I think about coming back to is Riverside and hem and haw between Orange County and Riverside, but never out of state. I'm good here.
Yeah, I don't understand people. Like, I don't understand the guys back when you were like in the off season. They went back to like Chicago and stuff. I'm like, dude, it's snowing all the time. You're shoveling snow. Why do you live in a place like that? You don't even get to enjoy the off season.
No, definitely.
So do you still talk to a lot of the guys? Are you guys still communicating, guys back in the big leagues when you played with them, or?
Oh yeah. Guys are always texting each other, see how things are going. I talk to Troy Percival a lot. He's here in Riverside, head coach over at UCR. So
yeah, hopefully his son gets drafted. God,
yeah,
what a year to get. What a year to try to get drafted. And there's only 5 rounds now. So
yeah, no, I know. I don't think he's got to worry about that. He'll be in the top couple rounds, I would imagine. But Percy's great. A couple weeks ago, Socia had a text thread with about 10 of us from the team, and we were always kind of shooting the shit, kind of getting on each other a little bit.
Is he trying to get back into managing?
I think he wants to, but I know last year he just didn't get many looks.
Really?
I just think that we talked a little bit about the analytics style and the GMs having a lot more say in the lineups and what's going on in the field, and I think that the intimidation factor that he brings to some of those guys, they just can't handle it.
Well, because I think he'll push back too much, and I don't think they want that.
No, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And these guys think they're smarter than a guy like Mike Socia is a little bit frustrating for some of the old baseball novelists, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny how much they're trying to change all the rules and changing this and changing that, and you're like, dude, you've never even been on the field before.
Yeah.
You don't even know. So how do you feel about the changes that you've seen in baseball lately? Replay, those kind of things. Are you happy with the direction that you've been seeing MLB go?
Yeah, look, we're in a time where things are changing, right? So, you either kind of get on board a little bit, or you can push back, and it's just frustrating for yourself. So I get a lot of it. The one thing I just don't agree with is just the pushback that the new genre of GMs is having against the old players. There's room for both.
Yeah.
And the experience that we all have had on the field is invaluable, right? And the experience that these new GMs bring on the analytics side is great as well. There's definitely a room for both, and it's frustrating when you kind of see a pushback from the new regime of GMs pushing the old guys, kind of the baseball guys, not even old guys, just some baseball players out.
Well, the hard part is, I think, when you just go straight numbers, and maybe the players are just playing for numbers, and it's like you can't measure. Like, you're like, if you have a contract year, you're like, dude, I got to bat. If I know I hit 335, I know I hit this, I'm gonna get more money.
Yeah. It takes a little bit of the competition out of it. You can blame the stats, blame the analytics. Even when we were playing, we had stuff given to us where this guy throws this pitch. If it was a lot, was like 60%.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's not enough. There's still 40% of other stuff he's going to throw. So you got to compete up there. You can't just sit up there guessing because someone says 60% of the time this happens and this count, blah blah blah. But I get it, and you kind of get all that information and you use it to how you want to use it and what's best for you individually.
Are you amazed by how big contracts are now? Like, is it sometimes mind blowing that you're like?
No, that part of it is great.
Yeah.
In all the sports, NBA, these guys are getting these if you're not making $30 million a year in the NBA, it's like, who are you, right? So. No, I think it's great, and it, as a union guy, you kind of appreciate the players that set up the union before me, our time, and then now, and hopefully guys continue to support the union, and the contracts will continue to grow.
Shoot, you guys are so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, God, there's no one stronger than MLB.
And hopefully it stays that way. It was never in the, hundreds of meetings that we always had, never any really pushback from within the players, kind of one group wanting this, one group wanting the other, kind of understanding the importance of us staying strong. For
sure. So, obviously you're doing the real estate thing. Is there anything else you kind of have on your in the next few years that you kind of want to accomplish in the next?
Yeah, that's a good question. I got my young 7-year-old, so kind of really be able to spend some time with him. When you're on the road, the older boys didn't get me around, on a regular basis. You're gone so much, 8-9 months out of the year. So really kind of be there, be his coach in whatever sport. I coached his football team for the last couple of years, so that's fun for me. So just kind of try to be there, and then I get out these opportunities that come along, and definitely look to do things to keep me busy and make some money.
Did you have you ever thought about maybe going down the Percival Road and go coach or something like that, or just kind of not at this point in time?
It's really time consuming to be a college coach in any sport. The recruiting, the travel, and it kind of takes away from me being able to be at home with the little guy, and get you back on the road, quite a bit. And it's tough. And as much as I love being on the baseball field, I'm not 100% sure that would be the right fit. Pro ball, being in the front office with somebody, being on a coaching staff, definitely. But the college thing it's really tough.
Well, shoot, I could not imagine doing those bus rides and all. There's no money.
No kidding.
No, yeah, you ain't get no private jets over here. No, I remember when I always laugh at Phil Nevins. Nevins was managing in AAA, and he's like, "I'm leaving." I'm like, "I gotta go flight." We're like, "Dude, it's a night game." He's like, I fly private. And I was like, "You do?" And he goes, "Yeah, I was the first overall pick. I fly private." And he goes, "That's how I do this." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Sounds good." That's why you always are leaving early.
Right. When you have that kind of bank account, the travel makes it a little easier, and that lifestyle, it's a little easier.
Well, I don't think people realize the strain it takes on bodies, traveling and jumping on flights and cars and stuff like that. I don't think people, like you said, by the time you're in your career, it's like you're playing and it's just like you just get beat up.
And nowadays too, the food that everybody's eating is a little bit better. But when we were coming up, it's like minor leagues. You bus rides, so you're eating fast food, late night hotel, fast food. So all these things kind of coming together, and it makes for a not so grand lifestyle at that level.
I know, isn't it crazy? So do you obviously you miss the lifestyle, but like, is there anything you would have changed going through the system?
It's tough to say when you had a long career. It's tough to really say you change anything, because if you change something, maybe you don't get to that point. Yeah. I just don't know. Maybe create a little bit better relationships with people in the front offices, coaching staff, something along those lines. But when you're in the grind every day, you're really just trying to compete, especially someone like me where, every kind of at bat matters. You're trying to get to your next at bat. You're trying to make a good impression. So, there's little things along the way, but really is a grand thing. I mean, I had a good career, so it's tough to complain about much of that.
I know the saying goes, it's harder to stay in the big leagues than to get to the big leagues. What was the point where you're kind of like, all right, I'm here? Like, did you ever hit that moment where you're like, all right, I'm in the big leagues? Yeah,
once you start getting into arbitration or free agency where you can get a multi-year contract, then you start to feel more secure in that. But yeah, the first couple years, until you get to arbitration, you're just really trying to fight for that, fight for at bats, fight for playing time. So once you do get to that point, you have some numbers to back you up, and if you have to go to court, or with the team. So
isn't it crazy, the stuff that like no one ever even thinks about? Like, I got to go to arbitrate to get more money. Like, what? I just want to play baseball.
Yeah, no. Luckily, I never had to go that route. Partly and because we won the World Series, right? So I don't think anybody wanted to go through arbitration process. Everybody was in a good mood. So that it was a good timing for me.
Because you had a new contract in 2003, right?
Well, that was my 2003 was my first year of really getting paid.
Yeah.
Your first 3 years, you're just kind of league minimum.
Yeah.
And then after those 3 years, you go to arbitration. So it was kind of good point to win the World Series. Get that MVP. And then go to arbitration.
And did that just obviously I think that's something that a lot of people think all big leaguers make tons of money, right? So was that just a big life-changing moment when you went from making the minimum to going to arbitration, getting that multi-year contract?
Yeah, I was a first-round pick, so I had a little money, saved up, but still at that point it wasn't, it was like $600,000, so not life-changing money. But yeah, once you get into the $1 million range, you start to think about where you're going to settle down, and where you want to, live full time and all that stuff, and a little bit more security. But what comes that, you got to stay on top of your game as well, because the next wave of players is coming to try to get you.
I know. I think that's what people don't realize in all sports, to be honest. Like, dude, like, we're all homies, but that guy's trying to come from my spot, like, and it's hard, and it's that pressure that a lot of people just can't handle.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially and as you get older, in the clubhouse, like for me, Howie Kendrick was coming up, and he was coming up, and he was in the clubhouse. So for me, knowing he's kind of coming to take my job and be my replacement, I still had obligation to be a good teammate, kind of show him the ropes, and you kind of have to keep that camaraderie with him while he's trying to take your job. So it's always a fine line there, but I always took a lot of pride in being a good teammate.
And how was it always, at the end of your career, kind of going from like to St. Louis and Oakland and Dodgers? Like, how was that always having to come into a new organization? Did it take a lot of time to like get used to how they do things?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's always maybe a little bit uncomfortable walking in a new clubhouse for the first couple days, but I'm telling you, you spend so much time there, so much time with them in the clubhouse, on the field, in the weight room, that within the first week, you feel like you're, one of the guys, and you have your new teammates. So it happens quick.
Yeah. So why don't we finish this off? What is your favorite moment you ever had? Obviously, you had 2002. Was there anything other than that kind of just like maybe a lot of people wouldn't think about was like your moment?
Oh, that's a good question. Playing at Dodger Stadium was probably one of my coolest moments in the big leagues. Just watching all those games on TV growing up, and
so you grew up a Dodger fan?
Well, back then, they were on TV more.
Yeah,
so
they're on Channel 5.
Yeah, so those are the games you listen to. Those are the games you watch. And then having Vin Scully around, for me, Vin Scully, Chick Hearn, and then to have Vin calling your games, that was a really cool moment for me. I love Dodger Stadium. They get the big, huge black speaker in center field. You give them some good music for your walk-up songs, and the crowd is great. I really love Dodger Stadium, and getting to play there was cool.
All right. I actually want to follow with 2 questions. One, how did you pick when you came up to music? How did you pick one? And if you were slumping, did you change it?
Definitely, if you're slumping, change it.
You have to. Okay.
And then all West Coast music for me.
Okay.
So Dre, Snoop, The Game, pretty much kept it all West Coast.
Got it. You know what, Adam? I really appreciate this. I hope you know this means a lot to me that you came in here. You know, I think that I want to say how awesome it is that you're probably the most famous person I know. So it's pretty awesome how warm, just how welcoming you've been. You know, when I sent you that message, you sent me one back. We've been communicating. So, you know, I just want to let everyone know, you know, Adam's the greatest guy that I've met. So, and,
appreciate it, Adam.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, until next time, guys, I appreciate everything, Adam. Until next time, peace.
You got it.